And welcome on in to the next season preview show, which is going over the Toronto Maple Leafs, taking a look at what they've done here in the offseason and their bets here for this season. Joining with me on my left is Nick, returning, doing other preview shows. And on my right is Zach Phillips, who came on a betting show once previously on the channel. And awesome to have you on. And I specifically asked you to come on this show for a reason. Obviously, you are a Leafs fan and you follow them in depth, and that's what's most important, is having people that are really knowledgeable about their team. So, of course, give Zach and Nick a follow. Their links to their Twitters are in the description below. But we will get right started here, taking a look at the additions and subtractions for Toronto this offseason. And one thing that I didn't write on here in additions and subtractions is the general manager change, which obviously happened offseason with Brad Treliving taking over for Kyle Dubas, which is something definitely important to keep in mind. Looking at additions, some guys from Minnesota coming over, and John Klingberg and Ryan Reeves joining Toronto this offseason. Bertuzzi, I think, is a great addition for that top line, giving it an edge that it didn't have before. Max Domi, yes, I've got both pictures here for Max Domi with his dad. I really think that this is going to be a good spot for Domi. I really like that addition as well for the third pair. Looking at subtractions, it's a long list. A lot of these guys, Ryan O'Reilly, for instance, was a rental. I think Jordy Ben leaving is a good thing. I think that's an addition by subtraction. Same with some other guys here. So a long list. But when I look at it, additions and subtractions, I don't think Toronto got overly better or overly worse. I think it's a bit of an even off season here, in my opinion. Zach, we'll go to you second this time. What do you think here, additions and subtractions for the Leafs?
Well, I kind of disagree with you. I think that they did get better this offseason. I actually first look at, you kind of mentioned the Kyle Dubas, Brad Treliving swap change there. People were up in arms about it at first here in Toronto. I liked it a lot. The way that I kind of looked at it was we did the same thing over and over and over and over again here in Toronto, and the same result every single year was a first round exit. Yeah, finally they get to the second round. They lose there. But at the same time, was the showing in the second round worth having gotten there? Doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of just a pat on the back to have gotten there. So you move out Kyle Dubas, and reality is that he kind of made this whole big fuss about the situation here in Toronto and how he wanted more power and wanted more autonomy, and made it out to be like he couldn't build the team that he wanted to build here in Toronto. And then he goes to Pittsburgh. He's the president of hockey ops. He names himself the GM, takes over all the power that he could possibly take over. And outside of really getting that Erik Karlsson trade, the types of players that he signed and the contracts that he signed have been pretty much the exact same of all the kind of contracts that he signed when he was here in Toronto. We're kind of looking at him building his roster out in Pittsburgh basically the same way. You got a couple of star players at the top and then filtering in around them with very similar players and contracts. Brad Treliving comes here and kind of just says, I'm going to do this differently. You bring up Bertuzzi, Domi, Reeves. Those are very, very different types of players than what the Leafs have had going into seasons past. I mean, you look at some of the smaller players that Dubas has brought in off seasons, sitting here thinking maybe Dennis Malgin or Kalle Yarncroke and Alex Kerfoot are going to be guys who make a big impact. Well, they're not. They're more the same player year in, year out. So you go and get Bertuzzi, Domi, and Reeves. They bring a different element than what you've seen before. And I think that ultimately, is the overall skill of the team better? Probably not from what we've seen in previous years. But I think that the way that this team is built now is better than what we've seen in previous years.
All right. Awesome. Nick, what do you think here, additions and subtractions for the Leafs? Did they get better or worse or kind of even this offseason?
I don't know if they got better or worse. I will say they got tougher to play against. Bertuzzi Reeves and Bertuzzi and Reeves are the main two there for that. But they got a little bit more of a backbone now. This is a team that you could easily push around. That nobody was really nobody was enforcing anything. If you can hit Matthews easily, you can hit Marner easily. Like you can hit Nylander, you can hit these top guys that are making a lot of money and all that. And they really didn't have the guy that was going to go in and hit you back or fight you. Like they didn't really have that backbone. And I think Ryan Reeves, number one, brings that. They may have overpaid for Ryan Reeves, giving him over $1.3 million a year for 3 goals, and you're bringing him there to be the enforcer, but he's not going to do you anything for offensively. But like this team did get tougher to play against. Max Domi, I like him a lot. I remember he had a nice little run in Dallas, and I remember 2 years ago he had a nice little playoff run with Carolina. John Klingberg, he signed in a $4 million deal, as a prove-it deal. He kind of had a little bit of a down year last year with Anaheim and Minnesota. I wasn't really impressed with what I saw from Klingberg. Maybe Toronto is a good spot for him here. He's a good puck move and defenseman. As for the losses, I liked Kerfoot. I thought Kerfoot was a good player for them. Justin Holl, you lost a defenseman. I mean, you replaced him with Klingberg. Wayne Simmons was like a fourth line guy. He was a healthy scratch. Noah Akari, Michael Bunting. Those are losses. I like that addition for Carolina with Michael Bunting. Luke Shen, yeah, these were all they're depth play pieces. Ryan O'Reilly, I was surprised left. I thought he liked it in Toronto, and he went to a rebuilding Nashville team. So that was kind of interesting as well. But I don't know if they got better or if they got worse. They got tougher to play against, though, and they got a little bit more grittier, is one thing I will give them.
Something they needed.
Yes.
That's for sure. And we didn't really touch too much on Martin Jones there. But I think that's a good thing. I think the less Toronto talks about Martin Jones, the better.
I don't think he'll be on this team coming out of camp.
Oh, good.
No, I don't think he will be.
Joseph Woll should be the backup.
Joseph Woll, and Samsonov.
We'll jump into the second segment, which is upcoming free agents for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's a pretty big list here. Bertuzzi and Domi, obviously on 1-year deals. William Nylander, UFA as well. So I think he'll be their main focus here when it comes to the forwards. Defenseman Klingberg on a 1-year deal. Giordano, is he going to retire? Is he going to stay another year or two? Or another year? We'll have to see. Liljegren at RFA. Jake Muzzin is injured. Matt Murray is injured. Samsonov. This is an important year for Samsonov, I think. His future in Toronto or on other teams will depend on this year. If he has a really good year, I think he could get a long-term contract somewhere. And then Martin Jones, as we just alluded to, I think that's somebody that you move on from. And Zach says, don't wait until next year to move on from him. Basically move on from him right away. So I totally agree with that. Nick, we'll go to you second this time. Upcoming free agents. Pretty big list here. What do you think Toronto should be focusing most on this offseason?
What they should be focusing on is trying to figure out what type of money they even have to try to re-sign these guys. This is a team, granted, they have $10 million in LTIR right now, but without the LTIR, this team's $13 million over the cap. And when you're looking at the upcoming thing, they are next year. That kicks in the Matthews contract where he goes from $11.5 million to $13.2, and they still got Tavares making $11 million. They still got Marner making $10.9 million. They got Riley making $7.5. So this is a team that's very top heavy in their salaries, to making me wonder where are they going to find the money to sign some of these players. Now, granted, Nylander is making a little under $7 now. If they're trying to re-sign him, what is he going to be making? $9-10 million? Like, that's another $3 million increase. Are they going to re-sign Bertuzzi? Probably not, unless he takes a pay cut, because I don't think they'll be able to afford him. Depends on also how much the cap goes up. But this team, they need to win now. Like, this is a team that needs to win now, because I don't know how much they're going to be able to. And maybe it's not next year that they re-sign a lot of guys. Maybe it's the year after when they get Marner and Tavares off the book, especially Tavares making $11 million to do nothing in the playoffs. I mean, this is a team that I mean, they re-sign Nylander, Bertuzzi, Domi? Yeah, they should try to focus on doing that. Will they be able to financially? That is the ultimate question for this team. This team is very top heavy when it comes to contracts, and that's the one thing that does worry me with them re-signing guys. Because if you sign Nylander to a $9 million deal, all of a sudden you have 5 players making over $7.5 million, which is a huge chunk of your payroll. But yeah, for me, they should be able to re-sign these guys, or they should try to. Question is, will they be able to?
One thing I do have to comment to before we get to Zach about Tavares doing nothing in the playoffs. He did only break the long streak for
Oh, he
Leafs.
scored a goal. My bad. He scored.
Yes, he scored a goal that moved them on past the first round, like he did with the Islanders,
Yes.
breaking their long streak as well. So can't say he did nothing at all. He did a little something. But Zach, what do you think here?
Not $11 million worth though.
There you go. Zach, upcoming free agents here. Who do you think the Leafs should be focusing most on re-signing this offseason?
Well, I mean, I don't think the cap is going to be as much of an issue as it's kind of being like made out to be. Breaking some of these down, yeah, they are over the number right now. So some of these guys are going to have to be moved on from, hence kind of why I'm predicting even Martin Jones going. The other thing you have to look at here is you can't send down Joseph Woll anymore because he has the opportunity to be claimed off of waivers if you try to send him to the Marlies. So you're not sending him down. You're not sending Samsonov down. So that's going to leave Martin Jones there for coming out of camp, probably being the guy sent down. And we've seen this Leafs team year after year after year send guys down and them immediately get claimed before the regular season even starts. So I don't think he stays. Matt Murray, 1 year left. He's going to be gone. That money's going to be off the books. I think like Giordano, gone. Klingberg, it'll be an interesting one. I think that it's one of those situations where if he plays well enough to grant himself an opportunity to go out and obtain a increase in salary next season, in next offseason, he probably helped the Leafs a lot, which is a good thing for the Leafs this coming season, because that would probably mean that his output of what he did offensively and potentially what he can do defensively increased from where he was at last year with Anaheim and into Minnesota when he had what was a down year. So if he's going to get a pay bump from where he's at right now, he probably actually has a good season, and that helps the Leafs. I think really in terms of the defensemen, the only ones that you're actually trying to get to come back here is Timothy Liljegren, who's RFA there. TJ Brody, I think, would come back and probably isn't going to take an increase. You could probably get him maybe at the same contract, if not less. Outside of that, Giordano, Muzzin, I think they're probably gone. I think Giordano likely retires. Klingberg, we'll just see, because if he doesn't live up to the contract or he doesn't play that well or make an impact here, why would you even want to try to sign him back? Then when you look at the forwards there, Nick Robertson, on my channel the other day, I put out a video and I talked about how I think the Leafs should trade Nick Robertson. I thought they should have traded him last year. They didn't. He goes and gets hurt. Trade value diminished again. There's another significant injury to him that holds him out for basically an entire season. You look at his last couple of years, he's playing like 35 games cumulative between the Marlies and the Leafs. Some of that is because of being healthy scratched, but injuries again, value diminished. I don't see him being a fit here. I'd probably try to move on from him right now. Then you're kind of looking at some irrelevant names here in terms of who you're going to be targeting to sign back. Gambrell, Lafferty, not at the top of my list. Nylander, yes, I obviously tried to get that one done, but I have no idea what this cap is going to come in at, what he's going to be looking at. I have no idea what the cap is going to go up next year. It's projected to go up a decent amount and then a decent amount again the year after that. So that's kind of dependent. And as far as the John Tavares thing goes, though, with the cap there, he's going to take a significant discount, and I imagine he's going to be staying here in Toronto. I can't imagine him causing the fuss that he did, leaving the Islanders, coming to Toronto and being named the captain, and then he just leaves again. I don't see that being the case. I see him just taking a massive pay cut and kind of finishing out his career here, which probably opens up somewhere between 40 to 50% of what his salary is currently. In my opinion, I think that's where it comes in at next. So you're looking at maybe another $5.5 million to work with just by cutting him down and keeping him. So that money could be available. You can start that conversation with him next season and where he'll be at. And then there's been rumors here in Toronto that Bertuzzi and the Leafs effectively have been talking on an extension for what he'll do next season already, but that can't be done until January because he did just sign this offseason. But that also is going to depend, as Nick had kind of mentioned there, like what season's he gonna have here? How is he gonna kind of play alongside the top line? Like Terry was even saying, fitting in there. That's kind of where he's projected. If he plays really, really well, guess what? He's probably gonna demand a lot of money and sit there and say, "Well, you want me to play with Matthews and Marner? Like you're gonna have to pay me to play with Matthews and Marner." So it's interesting there, but he's kind of top of the list. I think Domi, he's not going to demand too much out of you on a cap. So for forwards there, I'm looking at Nylander, Bertuzzi, Domi. Yeah, target them. Defensemen, really only Liljegren, and try to bring back Brody. You kind of weigh things out with Klingberg and see where he's at, what kind of impact he makes. But for the free agents, I'm not too stressed about it for next season.
Awesome. What's your thoughts on Samsonov? Do you need to see it from him this year, or another year before you're ready to say if they should resign him or not? Or
Yeah, like I was happy that they signed him this offseason. I think that the number he signed at is fair. Going to the arbitration and getting that, I think, just made sense. Like when I saw the number that he got, it wasn't, wow, this is too much, or oh wow, I can't believe the Leafs got away with that one. It was kind of just, it felt like the right number. The thing for me with goalies right now is you don't need a Vasilevsky type goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. We see that Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson kind of pushing Vegas through. Aiden Hill obviously being the guy to close it out there, but you see Darcy Kemper, Jordan Binnington being guys who have won Stanley Cups over the last little while. You need a good goaltender who plays great at the right time. You need a guy who has that ability in him. I think Samsonov has that ability in him. But, I mean, guys, the other thing here is that I think that Joseph Woll is going to be a stud. And I feel like this is going to be one of those seasons where it truly is going to be 1A, 1B. You're going to see a lot more games played out of Joseph Woll in this year. And I think they're going to kind of try to get him ready to take over the reins from Samsonov at the end of this season if it goes in that direction and if he plays well enough. If not, you're going to be in an entirely different conversation where you're going to be wondering if Joseph Woll can even be the guy, but I do think he can be. So for Samsonov, it's kind of just let this season play out. Let's see where he's at the end of it.
that could be a place where you get some extra cash, an extra cap space. If you do go with Wall, you can find another goalie somewhere else. And yeah, if Jordan Binnington can win a cup, then really any goalie can.
He was elite that year.
Yeah, I know. But we'll go to the next segment, which is possible lineup here for the Leafs. And yeah, Bertuzzi is projected to be on the top line with Matthews and Marner. Tavares, Nylander, and Matthew Nyes on the second line. That's two really good scoring lines. I think really good top of the league type offense there. Domi, I really think coming to Toronto is going to be a good spot for him. So that third line has question marks, Yarncroc and Lafferty, but I really think Domi is going to produce. And then the fourth line is what it is. Ryan Reeves can contribute an offense from time to time, and everyone's surprised when it happens. But I think he had a 4 points in 6 game streak or something, or multi goals. He had a streak there with Minnesota, a small one. But yeah, he's not there for offense, but whatever he does contribute will help. The defense, Riley and Brody in the top pair, McCabe, Klingberg on the second, Giordano, Liljegren on the third. Timmins is somewhere in there. Klingberg, I don't know if you want him on your second pair. He is good offensively, not so much last year, but defensively, he's a mess, and he was awful with Anaheim, and still with Minnesota, he wasn't too good defensively. So if he can improve his defense, that'll really help. And then, yeah, looking at the goaltenders, right now it's projected Samsonov, Jones, and then Woll, but I think the three of us will all agree that Jones should not be the backup here if Toronto wants to make a deep run this year. Nick, we'll go to you second this time. Or actually, who did we go to second last time? Yeah, we'll go to you second this time, Nick. Possible lineup here for the Leafs. What do you think?
Yeah, Martin Jones shouldn't be the backup. He should be the starter. Yeah, give me beach bomb. I'm just kidding. No, looking at this lineup, it's the same face of characters, and then they added Bertuzzi, obviously. But it's going to be very similar to last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. Goals will be not a shortage with this team. There will be no shortage in goals scored with this team. With those top two lines, they will score goals. That is not going to be a problem for them. Defensively, they are improved, and they're more of a pain in the ass to play against with a couple of the additions they've made. I think this team is going to be a good team to bet over the total with, because you're probably going to get 6.5 most games, and you're probably going to get a lot of 4-3, 5-3, 5-2 type of games with the Leafs here. They're going to play a lot of high-scoring games because that's just the style of hockey they play, which is great for regular season. So I think this is going to be a really, really strong regular season team. As we'll get into the next, when we get into the futures, we'll talk about that. But this is a team, I like their lineup scoring wise. Their defense core can score as well. Riley's a really good offensive defenseman. So is Klingberg. So I think this is a team. And goaltending is good enough. Like, this is not a team that I'm looking at like, oh, yeah, they can win games because Samsonov stands on his head. No, they're going to outscore opponents. That's kind of the way they're going to play. Samsonov's going to give up goals because he's going to see a lot of shots too. And it's just going to be just a back and forth type of team. So their goaltending is good enough. I think Wool has a lot of potential. Their defense core can score goals, and so can their forwards. So I think this is going to be a very offensive-driven team this year.
All right. One player I wanted to mention to keep an eye on is Matthew Nyes. I think especially at the beginning of the year, we're probably going to get some really good odds with him. And being on that second line, he's a player I'm targeting when the season begins. He's someone I'm keeping my eye on. Zach, what do you think about the possible lineup for the Leafs here? Are there any changes that you would make to this lineup?
No. Honestly, you mapped it out pretty well here. Other than goaltending, in agreement there with Nick. I mean, again, like, I don't think Martin Jones is even going to be on this team coming out of camp, so I think it's just Wall backup. The other thing, just the minute one that I personally would change, I'd have Pontus Holmberg on that fourth line. I could see him playing left wing alongside Kampf and Reeves. I think you give him an opportunity kind of to play with a defensive guy in David Kampf, maybe learn from him a little bit. He kind of seems like he could have like a Kampf 2.0 kind of vibe to him, maybe with a little bit more offensive ability. And being a 24-year-old rather than Gambrell, who's 27 there, and they're both on very, very cheap deals. We saw Holmberg play left wing. I think he could just slot into that spot. But again, it's just like, are we going to nitpick the fourth line left winger here at this point? Like, I don't know how much of an impact that's really making. Yeah, like, we might as well. But no, I pretty much have this about the same. The thing that's kind of nice with that third line too is that Yarncroke can play left and right. Domi can play left wing and center, and Lafferty can play left wing and center as well. So you get a lot of versatility. And then what that kind of helps you with too is you have the opportunity here now to go, oh, Domi can move up to line 1 or 2. Bertuzzi could go down to line 2. Nyes can move to line 3. Whatever it is that you need to do, because you're going to have a little bit more depth on that left side between Bertuzzi, Nyes, and Domi being able to play all on the left side, that is. Obviously, I think you start with Domi at center, but no, pretty much no changes here for me. Just that minute Holmberg in fourth line.
Awesome. Yeah, I went to Daily Faceoff to get my lineups because other people commented previously about objections to the lineup. So I went to Daily Faceoff, and what they say, that's what I posted here. So
it makes sense.
Go with their projections. Yeah. Going to the final segment of the show is future bets. Taking a look at the future bets for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, minus 700 to make the playoffs. There's obviously no value there. Plus 475 to miss the playoffs. Yes, they're in a really tough division, but it would take catastrophic multiple injuries for, I think, Toronto to miss the playoffs. It would have to be some kind of disaster. President's Trophy, they are, I believe, the leaders to win the President's Trophy this year. So there is not really a ton of value on Toronto future bets at this time when it comes to the top section. The second half here, Matthews goals, 40 last year, which was kind of a down year for him. It's back up to 51.5 for next year. I'm not touching that myself. Tavares goals, he did have 36 last year, so 30.5 this year. Marner points, 99 last year, 99.5 projected here. So odds makers are pricing these pretty well, I think. For me, there's just no future bet I won't really want to pull the trigger on. Who will have more points, Toronto or Edmonton? I think if there's a bet here that I was going to pull the trigger on at this moment, it would be Toronto minus 115 to have more points than Edmonton. I just think Toronto's just set up better overall. So that's where I would go. Toronto to have more points than Edmonton. But Toronto's not a team I'm rushing to bet futures with overall. Not because I think they're going to have a bad season, just because nothing's really priced. Nothing is priced enough that I am rushing to the window. Zach, we'll go to you second this time. Future bets for the Leafs. Anything catch your eye, or any other futures that you've looked into this offseason that you like?
Well, there was one for me that I thought was kind of interesting idea to take a flyer on, more because I think that if we get the kind of start to the season that we're maybe anticipating him to have, I think the number will shoot down rapidly. It would be prices on Matthew Knies Rookie of the Year. He is eligible. He's probably playing in top 6. I'm assuming he's going to start with Tavares and Nylander, but Sheldon Keefe loves to change lines up, and he does it frequently. So would really not be surprised if we see him getting some decent looks with Matthews and Marner in there too. Maybe it's not a permanent thing, but I saw the other day plus 2,000. He had the 7th best odds for Rookie of the Year. I think if you shop around, you could probably find a little bit better prices. This was before they were widely available across a lot of books. But I think that could be one to look at, just because I think that price is just going to go down once we see him start to have the start of the season. I expect him to. In terms of the rest of these futures prices, I mean, I'm not laying minus 115 on a lot of these. Like Marner points, do I think he could break 100? Yeah, but do I think that he's going to be at like 120 points, 115 points to clear it and make you feel comfortable? Not really. I think he could probably be like 105, maybe get up to 110, but it doesn't make me feel great at 115. Matthews goals, I think he's getting over 50 this year, but to lay minus 115 on over 51.5, like staying the heck away from that. Team point totals, again, like probably 110, I would say I think this team could do this year. But again, minus 115 on over, not doing it. The one I would say here, if you had an interest in, and this is more of like a, hey, this is kind of a prediction type of thing. Samsonov wins 32.5 under minus 110. I would feel much more comfortable with that. And this is solely because I think Joseph Woll is going to get a lot more playing time. Remember, like, Joseph Woll was signed to be the goalie of the future here. Samsonov's got 1 year. I just think that they kind of got to get to a place with him. As much as you're going win now, you kind of got to get the kid ready still. He's going to be on your roster. He's got to be here. He's got to play games. I think he's going to play in a lot more games, and it's not necessarily to say Samsonov's not going to have a good season. It's just he's probably going to have to play a lot more games to get to that 33 win mark. Under minus 110, I think that's not a horrible look there. That's kind of like the most enticing one. But would I really say to people like, hey, go and run to the window to bet that one? Not really. But that's kind of that's the one that kind of stands out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, odds makers, I think, priced things really correctly with the Leafs so much that it's really difficult to bet futures with them. Nick, do you have any futures that you like on the Toronto Maple Leafs? What do you think here?
Yeah, I hate taking favorites for stuff like that. They're the third favorite for this. I like them to win the President's Trophy this year. I think that offensively and the way this lineup is built, they can score enough goals to win enough games to have the most points in hockey. Like that's the type of team I see Toronto here, and it would be probably the most Toronto thing ever to win the President's Trophy and then get bounced in the first round to a team like Buffalo. But yeah, I think this team has the potential to win the division and the President's Trophy because I think talent wise they're better, or regular season talent wise they're better than Tampa Bay. I think Boston takes a step down. I think Florida takes a step down, and I think this team. I think Toronto has the ability to run away with this division by 5 to 7 points. Like I think this is a team that could finish with 110, 115 points and be close to that President's Trophy plus 750. I'd maybe take a sprinkle on that and to win the division at 2 to 1. To win the conference and win the cup, that's where I'll stop. This team I don't trust to win a playoff series. Like I know they did last year, but then they got their ass whooped in the second round. I don't trust this team come playoff time because, well, come playoff time, you need team. Now, the way this is built differently this year with Reeves and with Bertuzzi on that top line, maybe they have a little bit more grit because this team was soft for playoff hockey. That top end talent's too soft for playoff hockey. But if you have somebody like Bertuzzi on that top line, maybe this is the year they take a step up. Am I going to bet that? No, especially when I think they're either the favorite or the second favorite to win the conference and like top 5 favorites or top 3 favorites to win the cup. I don't think that. I think they're priced too. That's poorly priced there. I think they should be a little wider there when it comes to that. I'm kind of interested in Toronto minus 115 at more points than Edmonton because I said I like them to win the President's Trophy. So I would probably lean towards just the President's Trophy in the division, and then that'll probably also lead to the over points. I won't take any playoff futures with them here, but I'll take regular season futures. So that's kind of where I'll lean.
And if you do like them to win the President's Trophy, it would make sense not to take Stanley Cup futures. And even though there was a commenter in the Boston video that disagreed with me, I think we can agree that there is a President's Trophy curse of some kind. Teams that win the President's Trophy are usually gone in the first to second round. So, okay, there may not be an official curse, but it is record and fact that teams that win the President's Trophy struggle in the playoffs. So I'm sure, Zach, you probably don't really want Toronto to win the President's Trophy this year, do you?
Well, that's what I was going to say when Nick said to take it to President's Trophy winner. I'm like, yeah, you're just setting this one up for they're going to have the greatest season that we've seen them have in the last few years.
And then they're going to get shut down by Devin Levi and the Sabres.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the Toronto season preview show. Thanks, guys, for coming. Make sure, as I said, to give Nick and Zach a follow. Their Twitter links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching this NHL season preview show. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as we continue on breaking down all 32 NHL teams, which will lead to the regular season when the Getting Wild with Terry and Friends NHL betting show will return. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Of course, make sure to follow everyone in the description below that was on today's show to show them some support. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the next show.